to our next speaker, who's going to speak to us about positive mindset in leadership. I'd like to invite Councillor Majid Khan.
Deputy Lieutenant Mayor Curran, other distinguished guests and colleagues, and Councillor Bright was fantastic, I think, in what she's talked about. And I think she stole a lot of my thunder about some of the subject matter which I was going to cover, so you're probably going to have a very short speech from me, or a short talk. One of the things that I want to talk about, first of all, is about me and my journey into politics, into leadership, and what I've done here in Doncaster, the support that I've had from people along the way. Some of those people are here today, people like Tim Brown, who I've known since the age of 12, and we sat on police panel meetings together. So, despite the fact that Tim and I and other colleagues, sometimes we cross swords, there's just love between us, just so we're clear on that. I was born and raised in Doncaster, and one of my earliest memories is at 4 years old, being dropped off at the primary school, not knowing the word of English, and just being pushed through the door, and almost being left to fend for myself. And it was a very steep learning curve. And from there, I had good teachers around me. My parents, despite the fact that they came here as migrants from Kashmir, they tried their best and the best for me and my siblings to get me to where I am now. Had some good role models, good mentors along the way, and it got me to a position eventually where there was a turning point where you could either be angry with society around you and decide that everyone is against you and you rebel, or you embrace what you've got and the diversity and the differences that we have, we use those to our advantage, and we use that to take advantage and get a step ahead. The fact that we come from minority communities, and the fact that we are so supportive of each other, the fact that so many of us are here today is testimony to that. It's something that we need to start using more of, and be more cohesive, and be more welcoming. And especially alongside what Councillor Bright has said, with our youngsters, we need to act as role models and encourage those people to come forward. The problem we have, though, is we all here are leaders, but sometimes we don't realise that. And what we say or what we do has a massive impact and influence on people in our communities. And it's how we use that influence and how we use that mentoring and bringing people forward. Sometimes the best people for the job don't even know that they've got that skill in them. And it's down to us to draw that out of people. Empowering people begins at home. And that's why with our youth, we need to set a mindset where there's no barriers to what they can achieve. And around that, we especially within the Pakistani community, I don't know, amongst others, we have this kind of stereotype that I want my sons and daughters to be doctors and solicitors and all the rest of it. I mean, put your hands up if you're in agreement. That's like a common stereotype. Now, if all we ever aspire to is have our children as solicitors and doctors and such, that's the only field we're going to excel in, and we do brilliantly in that. But until we reach the pinnacle of every other sector, be it business or public life, we're not going to have the role models there to encourage our youth and our children to come through. And we're not going to have that positive role model that our people can aspire to. So it's down to us pretty much to ensure that we encourage our kids to diversify, to go into the roles. One of the things that I'm keen on and I massively support is our armed forces. Not only because they protect our country, but because of the discipline, the good quality of jobs. And most kids, if they go in at officer level, they're never going to be ever cannon fodder on frontline fighting. They're going to go in with career paths which are set out, and after service they can come back into the workforce and be skilled people. And at the same time, we then have people at the tables that make the decisions which affect all our communities. And often where it's just male and white and stale, we have an opportunity to have representation there on the decisions which are made, which are going to affect us in the years to come. And that's why I'm so much into having our kids in the NHS, police, armed forces, and every other sector of society. As parents, can you change your mindset and do that though? If your son was to turn up and say, I don't want to be a solicitor, or I don't want to be a doctor, would you be happy with that? We need to encourage our children to make those different decisions and do what they need to do. In relation to underrepresentation of BME communities, I think Tim's got a point there. One of the biggest minority communities that we have here now is Polish, and in one generation they're going to be pretty much assimilated and be a part of mainstream society, whereas us as people of colour, regardless of how long we've been here, how many generations we've been here, we will always be seen as the other. Even more so the reason why we need to have people in positions of power and authority who can help encourage our people to come up. And around setting that mindset, which I've often seen, and it really concerns me, is when people do get to a position of power, they don't want other people to get there and be on that level. So it's down to us to encourage that, take our people forward together, and make sure that we do have that influence and we get into those different spheres and different circles of influence. In relation to setting a positive mindset, which I think Dolly asked me to do, it comes down to very much on how you are as a personality and whether you look at something as being a threat to you or something that we can take advantage of. The Doncaster we live in, and the Doncaster I see, is full of opportunities for all of us. The amount of investment which is going on, urban regeneration, the high-skilled railway college, the University Technical College which is opening up, all this is opportunity for our young children to go in and become highly skilled and eventually go into highly skilled jobs and become the future leaders of our society. It's down to us to do that and encourage that. And I think, as Councillor Bright has rightly said, until we start mentoring our kids, mentoring our people, bring those communities together, we haven't really got a right to just sit there and complain. We need to be doers rather than sayers. We need to get up and, we need to sing our song and dance our dance. Unfortunately, I don't quite know what my song is yet, but when I do find out what it is, I will come back and I'll do a song and dance for you. And I'm just a bit conscious of time because I know I've only got until past. So I'm going to open the floor up for questions if anybody's got any.
That was fantastic. I'll be speaking later about advancing your career coming out of obscurity. And I listened with rapt attention to what you said about parents, BME, wanting their children to be lawyers, doctors, solicitors. I don't know what you have against us. Now watch this. But I believe, and that is one of the things I'll be talking about later, that the current generations have to be professionals, educated professionals. I represent a lot of policemen against the Metropolitan Police. Some of them have been in the force for about 25 years, and they are still constables. So I'll leave it at that.
I'm in total agreement in what you're saying, that we need to have the full spectrum in representation. So we need young professionals who are educated, but at the same time, we need people in every single industry,
exactly.
And at the top level of that industry.
If you are a BME, you have to be educated.
You have to be educated, but often you work your way.
Because what I've seen is that if you don't add value, you will be valueless. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, a very, very good point there. Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. Thank you. I think there's a gentleman at the back somewhere who. Is there another mic? We've got two mics.
And just continuing that discussion thread, really, and I was glad when you mentioned about the diverse professions. So for those that don't know me, I'm a chartered engineer, mechanical aerospace, not something you get people from the minority community working in very often. And I've worked for all the major aircraft manufacturers, including Airbus and Boeing. My point is, in a place like Doncaster, if there was a young person that says, that's what I want to do, if they don't see it, or Tim's son, who wrote to the council, is in a master's degree, applied mathematics is all the rage today with AI and machine learning. These are where these skills, the econometrics, are applied. But if you don't see these things, and some of these professions are not tangible, such that you can see the work that is being done. So my question is, within the community here, how do we expose young people to professions that maybe the industries that employ those skill sets are not currently heavily represented in the Doncaster area? If you said you wanted to be a data scientist, for example, yes, Amazon is one of the best companies to work for as a data scientist, but we know that the jobs around here are mostly for the Amazon delivery services, Amazon Prime, as opposed to Amazon Web Services, just as an example. So we need to begin to think of ways that we can connect young people in Doncaster who are currently at university here or elsewhere with professions that are currently not, by the lack of industries in these areas, represented in this area. By doing so, we are creating an opportunity for Doncaster to grow in these industries through the Launchpad scheme for startup and for new companies. So that's just a question I'm throwing out there. It's how do we connect young people? More of a rhetorical question. Arrange away days, arrange excursions to cities where we have these various professions. Let them come back and think, okay, what can we now do here? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very valid point which you've made there. We were talking about legacy earlier on and what people leave behind. And one of my legacies as my time as mayor was I set up the Civic Mayor's Award, in which we give recognition and reward to young people and youth and what they do. And as a part of that kind of out-the-box thinking, one of the things that we had to do was approach local businesses, national businesses sponsorship to get that going. Just because of Tory austerity and slashes to local government funding, we didn't have the money to deliver it, so that's the only way I could do it. A part of that, the businesses that I've partnered up with as sponsors, what they've agreed is to encourage the children to come forward and to people within their areas of employment to act as mentors. One of the people that we have on board, he's also one of the founding members of Mosaic, which is a mentoring organisation which works alongside the Prince's Trust. So sometimes it's about raising that awareness about what is available out there, what we do have in Doncaster, because there is a big offering. It's just sometimes I think people like me, it's my fault. I'm not as good as getting the message out there on what we do offer people and our youths. Thank you.
Majid, I just want to congratulate you for the good work you've done in your term of office. I believe that people like you have paved the way and created awareness that the BME community can also have a place in the civic office. My question to you is, a lot of us have this notion that if you are of color, you are not valued and you cannot get into certain positions in the society. Was there ever any challenge of that sort? If there was, how did you overcome it to get there?
Thank you for the question. In relation to my political experience and what I've achieved politically, I've not had anything but help and support, and I think that very much represents Labour Party values, and it's a part of the Labour movement that we do encourage that diversity and we help people come forward and come through. And we have somebody in the room, so we've got Councillor Glyn Jones who looks after our equalities, and I don't think there's a better man placed for the job, and I sincerely mean that, Glyn, because of his experience, his understanding of our minority groups is second to none, and because of other stuff which I know about him, which you probably wouldn't want me to divulge and talk about. I know Glyn is fantastic, and it's having people like that, it's having people like Councillor Rachel Blake with me at my side, we know that if there's issues or concerns or what I've got people that I can rely on and speak to, and it comes back to that point around leadership. In relation to politics though, one thing that we need to do is we need to be more politically engaged as minority communities. Now, I'm not saying join the Labour Party, but I'm willing to take your name if you wish to do so. What I would say is join the other parties, be a part of that, and at a local level, instigate that change. So at the moment, we've got somebody who's potentially going to be our Prime Minister, who refers to Muslim women as letterboxers. Very offensive comments towards our black communities. Now, what do we do about that? We join our local conservative associations, we make our views known, and we don't allow this kind of thing to happen. We don't allow these kind of people to come into positions of leadership. It's our fault that this is happening. We're the people who are on watch when we're allowing this to take place, so it's down to us. Sorry, we're not meant to get political, are we? But since I've took my chains of office off, it's kind of relieved me. I'm allowed to give out political messages, which otherwise I wasn't allowed to do so. Anybody else, any questions?
Thank you. I've heard a lot about how we should try and encourage the youth and talk about maybe trying to get them to be lawyers, solicitors, doctors, things like that. And from my aspect as a youth, especially now I've been in London, I've been in Doncaster, I've seen it multiple parts of the country. The same is that youth, we lack that motivation to go see those jobs. In my school, as an example, nearly once a month, they'll bring in a person who's a job, they'll bring in an engineer or a person who started their business to talk about their way that's coming, the way they've progressed up the ladder, how everything's gone for them, to try and inspire us and show us different industry opportunities. And my school is out with Academy Adwick in Woodlands. It's not too far from here. I know they do that in some other schools too, but as I walk out this and I look around, nobody ever looks motivated. And I know one thing is on this planet is that money makes the world go round. And especially as youths, we see money, and that's something that we're interested in, and we always try to take the easy route. And I've seen people, and I know people who may even try to, as youths, they see the easy route, that's what they want, they even take the illegal ways. They might start doing fraud, drug dealing, a Nigerian phrase that's popular is Yahoo boys, it's everywhere. 419, there's so many different things. So my question is, how do we almost provide that motivation to the youths to go into these different industries?
Back to what I said pretty much earlier, a lot of that motivation must start at home. We need to be good examples and role models for our children. And I'm not going to push any particular religion down anyone's throat, but religion aside, a sense of morality and what is right and wrong starts at home. And then that's echoed through the schooling system. And I'm hoping that once children do get to that kind of an age and they do understand the difference between right and wrong, they won't go down that path and they won't go into easy money, drug dealing, fraud, etc. In relation to giving inspiration, we need to be more visible in how we're role models. And in Doncaster, because of the fact that the minorities only make up 5, 6, 7%, the majority of people who are underperforming in Doncaster are our working class kids from working class communities. And the motivation which they once had has been completely lost because of the traditional industries of Doncaster have been absolutely decimated. And it's our job again to go out there and be good role models, to show what is available and to encourage people. My view on a lot of stuff is that the way out of adversity is through education and be involved. And I could sit here all day and stand here all day and talk about various stuff. I deeply believe in the Scout movement because I see what benefit it adds. I believe in cadets, air cadets, the kind of stuff which gives children a clear path on how to progress, gives people role models, and it's stuff which I deeply believe in. And unfortunately, within our working class communities, there's been a bit of a disunity from those movements now, and we need to start encouraging that again. In relation to working in schools, I'm glad to hear that Outwood are doing so much. We need to be more involved. We need to be in schools more. We need to be talking to kids more. I know one of my councillor colleagues, Councillor Rachel Blake, Rachel Hodson, sorry, wrong Rachel. She does a lot of work in schools around this, working with children and motivation.